Hello, I'm Joshua Isaac Smith at the EMDR Center in London, speaking with George Bowlay-Williams, who's a colleague of mine, someone that I've been working with for the last year, who's a graduate of the programs, and we just wanted to get a sense of what George's experience is at the EMDR Center and a bit about his work. So, welcome, George.
Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you for taking time out on this
That's okay.
lovely English afternoon.
It is a lovely afternoon,
with
isn't it?
clouds in the sky and everything, right?
Yes.
It wouldn't be an English summer without clouds in the sky.
We've got to be grateful for it today. We're on this earth, I think.
Exactly.
Yes.
So anyway, thanks for joining. So tell me a little bit about what your experience is with EMDR. Maybe even what brought you to EMDR and to the EMDR Center.
What brought me to EMDR? I think EMDR sort of found me. Because I remember I'd been in therapy for a year and a half, and during which my therapist suddenly looked up at me and said, "From what you've been telling me, it sounds like you have trauma." I was like, "What trauma?" I was kind of surprised. So that's where and we talked about it, and I started looking into it and whatever it is. Then also looking into it from a client point of view as well. Then suddenly I fell into the laps of EMDR, and what I liked about EMDR, it was like it got to the point, but in a humanistic way. Whereas like if you're in therapy, sometimes a lot of other petty issues happen. Well, no issues petty, but for want of a better word, can sort of like sidetrack you. So whereas like in EMDR, it's much more, in a way it's direct, but as I said earlier, in a very kind, warm and holistic way. So that's what kind of brought me to EMDR. I thought, wow, this is interesting. I would like to check it out. And because I'm a very creative therapist, I like to use other, apart from my own background, which is a person-centered approach, I also like to use other interventions. And EMDR was kind of a very attractive option, and what it offered as well. And the hope it offered to people who've suffered trauma for so long, to be able to give them that, that hope that yes, they can heal, they can start the life all over again. They can start life all over again. I thought, wow, this sounds attractive to me, and I was looking for somewhere to study, and all the other places offering EMDR, well, kind of like, oh, you have to be, what's the word, accredited and all this kind of snobbery.
KCP.
Yes, all that. And I thought, then luckily I found the EMDR Center. I thought, yay, and I enrolled, and the rest, as I said, is history. Because I did all three modules, which I found they helped me with my work. They helped with myself as well. And although I've not been able to use it as much as I'd like at the moment, but there's stuff I've taken from it, like the grounding, the resources I've taken from it, and it's helped in my work. In my work with my clients, it's helped at least to stabilize them. It's good. Yes,
That's really great.
Yeah.
Do you work with trauma then regularly, or do you work?
Yes, I'm glad you said I work with trauma regularly, because it's not an easy one, because I work in the charity section, and where I work, I kind of work with people who are sort of like wanting to reconnect with society, who have issues that kind of blighted their lives, like addiction, that kind of thing. And what happens is sometimes when they come to treatment, it doesn't. That's not what's presented. What is presented is the symptoms, which is the addiction, the numbing, and which that's what's presented. So it makes it difficult to sort of like see trauma, even though it's there.
Right.
Even though I can see it's there staring me in the face.
It's not on the surface.
It's on the surface. It's underneath it.
Right.
So the work is, how do you get underneath to that? Yeah, but I do. The short answer is yes, I do work with trauma.
Yeah, and as you work with it, what are some of your favorite approaches to it besides EMDR, of course?
Well, I tend to favor the inner child, and because it's so powerful. What we don't realize is that even though we're adults, we spend all our lives masquerading to the tune of the wounded child if it hasn't been resolved. So part of it is going back to the source, going back to basis, and kind of, and then to deal with what's gone on in the past before you can move on. Because if you don't move on, you're trapped in that cesspit. That's your damaged inner child. Yeah.
So what do you mean? If I may say, what do you mean about damaged inner child?
Because if someone's, say for instance, someone suffered horrific abuse in the childhood, abuse, physical, emotional, mental abuse, shame. So that they become damaged because the child is supposed to be. That child's supposed to be spontaneous, full of joy, joie de vivre, kind of thing, creative, playful. But if that's crushed because of the abuse that's gone on in the past, so that child is probably stuck there in that emotional rot.
At that age.
At that age, let's give an age, say 8 years old, when certain events happen, so it's stuck there for the rest of its life. If we don't do work on that.
Can you explain? Well, why is that a person who, let's say, experiences the unfortunate traumatic events at say 8, why would it get stuck there? Why wouldn't that person just be able to carry on like everybody else?
Because it changes their life forever. It changes it changes the way they think about themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, because like shame, the guilt, the fear, the feeling of inadequacy.
So they never get past it.
They never get past it.
So they get stuck there.
Yeah.
Literally.
So that becomes the default.
Right.
It's almost like a script, really. They've written like a script. They've written the script then.
Yeah.
So, and that script, if they don't change it, they adhere to that script for the rest of their lives.
Do you, with all the work you've done, do you have any examples or any kind of cases? I realize you work with a lot of sensitive clients, so that you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah. Well, I can do my best to give you an example. I think I worked with a client who had some really serious issues happening in the past, and when they came to therapy, they kind of blamed themselves for it, whatever it is. And I remember looking at them thinking, I was saying to them, how old were you when this happened? I was 10. How old was the other person? They were 40 odd or something like that. Okay.
So the client was 10 when it happened, and the perpetrator or whatever was 40.
I said, I said, just imagine this. Look, imagine this. So you're out in the street, you're walking, you see a father and son. Just look at the father and look at the son. Just observe the height between the child and the father. See how see the difference. You just imagine that child to be you, and look at. And suddenly it drums home that realized they were a child, they're helpless. Yes, they couldn't defend themselves.
They couldn't because they were too small.
They were too small.
Right.
Somehow they had to, but yet still they had to survive.
Right. Right.
So
as an adult.
An adult. So getting them to understand that, then that in itself leads on to compassion. So they have that compassion that really, life is a struggle, but I can go on, I can live, I can prosper, I can be who I want to be.
So that compassion then allows the adult male, your client, to embrace his inner 10-year-old.
Yes,
and then that's where some healing happens.
Some healing happens. Then the adult takes over. The adult becomes much more assertive, gathers information correctly, so doesn't just make, doesn't live on belief, but more assertive, and so in a way that's kind of what happened. He was able to see that, okay, this happened. It's not my fault.
It's not my fault, right? So that's really how people get stuck. Say that example of 8 years old
is it sounds like at 8 years old they're left with it's my fault, or I'm wrong, or I'm bad, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what
That's
we
where
take with us as adults.
Yes,
a belief that.
And I'm glad you said I'm bad. I hear that a lot of times, and most often than not, when I hear that, I would say to whoever I'm working with at the time, said, when was the first time you heard that? Usually it's from a caregiver, and they would have heard it time and time again. So can you imagine all that's added on to the poor child? I'm bad. You know, that inherited hopelessness.
That's hopelessness.
Yes.
So they carry that forward with them, like a maladaptive legacy, like a albatross around their neck. They carry it with them wherever they go. I'm bad, I'm bad. So then they start to believe that enough, and actually. And
that's where, earlier you mentioned shame. That's where shame comes in. Because I believe shame are the lies people tell us about ourselves.
Shame are the lies that people tell us about ourselves. Interesting.
Because if you tell a child is bad, obviously it's a damn right lie. The child is not bad.
That's right.
The child has had bad things done to him. As in the case of this client, had bad things done to him. But for some reason, had led to believe the lies he was told. Yes, you know.
And he carries that forward in terms of he believes that.
Yeah. So by getting them to sort of say, well, I hear what you say, but look at this. You were a child. They were your caregiver. They were self-responsibility. They ought to know better.
That's right. What could you do?
You
didn't have power. You were powerless.
So somehow that gives them that opportunity to check in with themselves, to see. It can be painful, but and my role there as a therapist is to be maybe for the first time in their life, be their compassionate witness.
Be a compassionate witness.
Say, I'm here. I get the sense what went on for you was really bad. Really bad. It robbed you of your confidence, made you, it robbed you of your humanity.
And it almost stripped away power, stripped away permission, maybe it stripped away freedom. So that compassionate witness is really important.
It is important. Because it's important. That's where they learn to sort of like acceptance. Accept who they are. Accept the suffering, and accept that they weren't responsible, and accept that they're a beautiful human being.
That's really beautiful. So that's invite self-compassion. That's really what we're talking about.
So through that, slowly, because it's a very slow pace. It cannot be rushed. It has to be at the client's pace. So slowly, they get to understand this, and then gradually they learn to hear it themselves. I am not responsible. It's not my fault.
It's not my fault.
It's not my fault. You know that I was a child. It's only when the penny drops, it's so freeing. It's so. I don't know. It's like a eureka moment. It's
It's like a moment of complete triumph. Like it's like victory, like doing a victory lap. It's like, wow, I could. It's not my fault. I'm free.
Exactly. Because that blame, that guilt, it's just kept them. It's coercive, isn't it? It's kept them down, suppressed them, and it's sort of like with now. Rob them of hope. You're trapped in that cesspit of nastiness. That's not your own doing. Because you were a child. Your caregiver is supposed to look after you. That is part of the deal. To look after you, to help you on that journey to adulthood. So from then on, you can face the world as a wonderful human being, as a human being who understand that not everything has to be good. Life sometimes along with the rain comes the sun. So and sometimes you learn to find that balance. But if you haven't been allowed to sort of like make those mistakes when you grow up, learn from your mistakes and grow, under the supervision of a caregiver who's loving and caring nurturer. So you have no hope in hell if
you don't sort of get past that.
If you don't get past that, yes, absolutely.
Well, that's great. So I'd like to invite, if you'd like to learn about your compassionate witness or more about self-compassion or George's work, what's your, how do they get in contact with you? What do you want? What's your email or your blog?
My blog is Bowlay Counseling.
Can you spell that?
BOW Will.
Okay.
WILL counseling.com.
Okay, great.
And I blog about my experience as a counselor, what I'm faced with in my work. I kind of blog a bit about that, so I get an understanding.
That's on your, and it's on your website.
Yes,
excellent.
I get an understanding of it. Hopefully, whoever happens to read it might get something from it.
Great.
I think it's great, and it's great when you work with the inner child, because you know you're giving somebody their life back.
Very powerful. Well, thanks for spending some time with us this afternoon, and keep up the good work.
Well, thank you.